Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I have my summer bookish mug from Book Babe Designs. I love her shop so much. I just got a sweatshirt from her that says team whichever the villain is on or something like that, and team whoever the villain is. Sweatshirt's never been so perfect for me. And speaking of stores, I wanted to talk about a small business, a shop that my best friend actually does. She gave me some items for my birthday, which was super sweet, and I wanted to share them all with you because I think they're amazing. The first thing is this beanie. She crochets, knits these. I think it's crocheting. And this one is amazing. This is so soft. I love that it's like ombre between black and red. I really love this. This is super soft and comfortable. Sometimes in my experience, when I've worn things that are crocheted, knitted, whatever, with the yarn can be a little bit itchy, but I still liked wearing it because it was warm in the winter. This is super soft and comfy. I love it. It doesn't irritate my skin. And her shop is called Knotty Charms. I can link it down below because it's spelled a little bit differently than how it sounds, but because of that, everything gets a little charm, which is adorable. So this is an airplane, probably because she knows I love to travel, and I love this. I can't wait to wear it in winter to keep me warm. The other thing she made me is this cardigan, and I'm gonna put it on and try to show you kind of like a full body situation, but this yarn is also extremely soft. I actually picked this colorway because it's kind of earthy and toned down, and I was like, I will absolutely wear this when I'm cold. I will wear it in the house, just, you know, all the time. But let me put it on for you. Looks like this. It's great. So you can see the sleeves, there's like little holes in it, so it's not like, I don't know, if you're like extremely cold or like in a blizzard, it might not keep you super warm, but it's really nice and kind of breezy for that reason. I like wearing it around the house. It's very cozy. And the charm for this one is a little compass. So cute. I like that the sleeves are baggy. The sleeves are long, so I can like hold them and cuddle with it. I'm just kind of twirling for you, showing it off a little bit. It's gonna be hard to get like a full body picture of this, but you can like close it like a good old cloak. It's very cozy. It does have a hood in the back. And unlike most companies that make hooded things, the hood goes pretty far. So a lot of times with hoods, they come to like here on me or something, but this one would like, I could be like a Jedi Knight in this sucker, you know? It's like a Jedi robe, which is great because I feel like when you want a hood, you don't necessarily want it to be shorter. You don't want it to hug your head necessarily, and a lot of those hoods don't fit people with different sized bodies, and I have a very small frame, very small head. So I love the hood. I love that it's versatile for different people, and it's very comfy, cozy, and I will like just wear this whenever I'm cold, especially in the house, because it's just so cozy and big, and I can just cuddle up and play PlayStation or read a book in it. I can even put the hood up if I'm super cold. It's great. So I will go ahead and link her shop down below, but you should follow her and pick anything up if you like it. She also makes like little stuffed animals, and she's done these like little dinosaur animal guys that's like St. Patrick's Day themed, like holiday themed, or different things, and they're super cute, and you should check out her shop. Like I said a million times, I'll link it down below, but just give her a follow, give her a like, and support her if you would like. So today's video is going to be books or series that I have DNF'd or I'm going to DNF. So sit tight for the tea. So for quite a while, I had issues with DNFing books. I felt like I was giving up on books. I felt like, what if this is my favorite book and I gave up on it too soon? You know what I mean? And I would just struggle. I would be like, well, maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll improve. And sometimes they do. And sometimes they don't. And I'm kind of getting to the point where I have so many books to read that I want to read, that I need to read, that I need to just stop reading books that I'm not feeling in the moment. I can try to pick them up later, but I just need to be better about making the decision to stop reading it and pick up something else that I will enjoy, because if you're not enjoying it, what's the point, right? So I'm gonna go over some books and or series that I started that I have DNF'd and I've put down, and kind of my thoughts on that. So the first one we're gonna talk about is The Beholder by Anna Bright. I read this at some point. I couldn't tell you exactly when. It wasn't this year or last year, But I read The Beholder thinking it sounded really interesting. I loved the cover. I thought like the premise was kind of interesting. It was kind of comparing it to The Selection, which I read The Selection really quickly. I wouldn't say it's good, but it was fun. It was like eating candy, but it's like trash reading. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so it said it was going to be like kind of a mix between The Bachelor and something else where she is this initial elect and she's going to kind of meet these suitors and potentially marry one of them. And I thought that would just be a really fun book. That's it. Just fun. And it was, I hated it. I think I gave it 1 star. If not, I gave it 2 stars, but I gave it a pretty low rating. I don't remember the exact one. And I remember being so irritated with the main character of like developing a romance and then one thing would happen. And I'm not, okay, like we're gonna separate this from reality, but like one small thing would happen with the male interest and she'd be like, I'm writing you off forever, and would just leave. And you're just like, what? You basically said you were in love with him. And now because he said, well, I was protecting my identity because I'm the prince and it's dangerous. And she's like, well, you lied to me once. That's it. Like, and I get that to an extent, but it was just things like that. Or she was like about to marry, not really. She's about to be like, we should do this. We should get engaged. You're the one. And then the guy was like, well, I don't believe in this. I don't remember what it was. It seemed trivial. It's probably not, but it seemed trivial at the time. And she was like, oh, well, I can't marry you. So she was like going to like the enemy lands. They're trying to like take down her kingdom, which maybe that book would be more interesting. But I just couldn't. It's a duology. And I was like, I struggled through this first book. I don't need to read the second book. So I'm not going to continue that series, that duology. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Poor Anna Bright, as I'm wrecking this book right now. She has come out with another book, like, I think it's The Sun Shines Bright or something. The covers are getting me again, but I might give that one a chance in the future, but this one in particular, this duology, is not for me. At least I don't think it is. And see, in my mind right now, this is why I struggle with DNFing. I'm like, what if you picked up the second book, and what if you really liked it? No, I'm moving on. I don't need to read it. That's it. Another one that I think I'm going to DNF, I haven't picked it up in years. This one's kind of like on the fence because I may finish this series at some point in time, but it's not right now. And that is The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I read the first book in the trilogy and was really frustrated with it because I felt like so much of the book, I already basically knew the plot. I already basically knew what was going to happen. So it was like the first third of the book is establishing the world, and the last 2/3 of the book were them like telling me things that I had already figured out. And I'm not saying it like I'm this amazing person. It was just like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, duh. No, duh. We already knew that. You're just telling it from a different perspective. Like, I just got really frustrated with it and really didn't appreciate it. And I just felt like I knew the whole story and I just had to sit there for 2/3 of a book for them to tell me what I already knew. And something about that like just really like irritated me, and it would just like grinded my gears, and I did not appreciate it. So I stopped reading it. My husband finished the trilogy. He said it's really good. He said I should read it. Maybe I will someday. But I was so off put by book 1 and annoyed that I haven't. So that one's on the fence, but at this point it's DNF'd. The next one may be a little bit controversial, maybe not, but The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I picked this up thinking it would be a really fun mystery story and kind of like dangerous, and like maybe they're trying to like off her, and that's not what this is. So you're kind of going into it. I didn't really explain the plot of the previous one, but you're going into this book because she is told that she is an heir and announced the heir of this like millionaire, billionaire, but he has grandsons, and there's like a lot of stipulations on this where she is the heir and she will inherit everything, but only if she lives in this house with the family that's like, you know, really upset about the situation, lives with them for like a year. I don't remember if it's a year or 3 years. I think it's a year. So she has to like accept this and live there and survive it. And if she does that, she will inherit all this money, right? Crazy. And I thought like, she's got to actually survive this place. Like they're going to try to kill her all the time. Like it's going to be crazy. It wasn't really like that. It was more the grandsons in the family don't like her that much, and she kind of starts to develop some rapport with the grandsons. Some of them are fine, some of them whatever, but it's more like games and puzzles. It's not like life or death things. And that's kind of what I was hoping it was going to be. So it's not necessarily the book's fault. I just thought it was going to be more dangerous than it is. And it's more of a, I guess, romance. I don't really know. But she kind of like has a love triangle with some of the brothers that are the grandsons of this guy. And there's a little bit of a twist at the end that was cool. But, and her life is attempted on like once. But I don't know, man. It just kind of irritated me because I was hoping it was going to be more dangerous, more crazy, more like suspenseful, on your edge of your seat, and it really wasn't that. And that's just not what I was looking for. So no shade to anybody that likes any of these books, by the way, but if you love this series, fantastic. I'm happy for you. I was just hoping it was going to be a little bit different, and it wasn't, and that's okay. So this is not for me, and I decided I'm not going to finish the trilogy. There's like also one's about the Hawthorne boys, but I'm not going to finish the series. The next one is the Vicious Lost Boys series by Nikki St. Croix. The first one is The Never King, which I did read and was absolutely traumatized. I rated it 1 star. I went into it thinking it was going to be a dark romance. It was, but I went into it thinking it's going to be like a dark fantasy Peter Pan retelling romance. So I thought it would be like an adult Peter Pan romance. And I was like, that sounds cool. And maybe Peter Pan's morally gray. He's like a mob boss. That sounds cool. You know, that doesn't sound bad at all. I highly recommend you read trigger warnings before you read this book if you're interested in it. I was traumatized, horrified, disgusted. I've talked about potentially reading the second one. There's 4 books though. I've talked about potentially reading the second one. I might convince myself to, but as far as right now, I'm going to DNF this series. There was assault and like really, really degrading treatment of women, and it like really made me sick to my stomach. And it's not like that's a dark romance, so that those things happen, I think, in a lot of dark romances. So just, you know, understand that that's not my genre. I guess I don't like that. Maybe I haven't read enough of them or any of them, but it like made me upset, and I was like horrified at what was happening and didn't understand why this was being painted as a love story or why the main character was like into it. I didn't understand. She was painting it as like she can use her body to get revenge, but she liked it. I don't know. We don't need to talk about it anymore, really, but I was really upset about this book and I do not want to read it anymore. The next one is a series that I was kind of deluding myself into thinking that I would continue, but I decided I'm not going to, and that is A Touch of Darkness series by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, but it's not contemporary because it's like a kind of like an urban fantasy. So it's Greek myths, right? So it's Hades, Persephone, Greek gods, all that stuff. But it's kind of set in like a modern day setting called like New Olympus, kind of like New York in a way. So it's like modern day things, whatever. The gods are humanoid, but they have these like horns that come out of their head like an antelope, whatever, which identifies them as gods, which is actually really cool. I thought that idea was really interesting, and they can glamour themselves so that you can't see them so that people don't know you're a god, right? So that was cool. I obviously knew it was going to be a Hades and Persephone retelling. Sometimes I really like that, sometimes I don't. And this was a case where I just didn't. I thought the story was okay. I felt like there wasn't a lot of plot. Maybe the plot deepens and thickens in the next few books and maybe it gets better. I don't know. I will never know, I guess. But it just felt like it was maybe not insta-lovey, but it felt like the spice happened so fast and took up so much of the book that I was like, what is going on? Like, there's no plot to this. It's just this. It's just spice. It's just steam. And that wasn't what I was looking for, to be honest. I like having plot. I like having other things going on in the story. And yeah, there was just some weird stuff with that I didn't like. So I was like, maybe I'll continue. Maybe I'll. No, I just need to let it go. I don't think it's for me, and that's okay. And I read another book by her in June It was like a fairy tale retelling, like a Beauty and the Beast one, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, way more than I thought I would. And if the spice had been taken down in that one a little bit, I think I would have really loved it. So I still have hope for her as an author, like that I will enjoy her as an author. She's doing great and people love her works, but I think this one's just a miss for me, and it's not for me, so I'm not going to continue. Next is the Talents trilogy by ML Rio. No, it's J.M. Miro. The first book is Ordinary Monsters. I read it. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. I feel like I have complicated relationships about that book. I just read it and I felt like it was kind of slow. There were parts of it that were very intriguing, very, very creepy. Like, not like scary, like horror. Well, maybe a little, but just kind of like creepy, really creepy elements, really sinister elements. But also there were some interesting elements and interesting commentary about things. But for how thick that book was and how much plot was going on and the things that were happening, at the end of the book, I was just kind of like, I didn't really like this. And I struggled with it for a while because I had a really pretty Goldsboro edition of it. I have since unhauled it. Because I wasn't a fan, and I was like, why am I keeping this around? And then I found out it was going to be a trilogy, and I was like, no, I cannot get sucked into this because I really didn't like the first one a whole lot, like not enough to continue. So the fact that it's a trilogy, I was like, no, not doing that. We're not doing that. And the ending kind of upset me. I don't really know where this is going to go. I don't understand what's happening, and I don't need to know. I need to just like shut my brain off with trying to figure out all of the endings to all of the stories, because if I really wanted to know, I could probably find it. But yeah, I'm just okay with letting this one go. It wasn't bad. I think if the story interests you, you should pick it up. I just think that I didn't vibe with it as much as I wanted to. The one character I really enjoyed wasn't in it a whole lot, and there were just some kind of weird things about it, so I'm not gonna continue, but if you think it's interesting, I think you should give it a shot. The next is The Bright and the Pale duology by Jessica Rubinowski. This was a fairy loot book back in the day, like a long time ago, years ago, and I finally read it because of my Sprayed Edges challenge that I'm trying to get myself to do, and I really didn't care for it. I should have DNF'd it, but I finished it. So now I'm not going to read the second book in the duology. It was fine. I think I gave it like 2 stars. It was just kind of boring. And for the premise of it being like Russian inspired, and she's going into this like mountain, this like frozen mountain to try to find like a secret power and whatever, and she's got to save her best friend, and it just kind of all fell flat for me, and I just didn't feel tied to the characters. I didn't really find myself caring much. And I just don't need to continue it, you know? Another one that I DNF'd that I have spoken about on my channel before is Battle Scars by Sam Maggs, I believe it is. And I was so disappointed in this book. I DNF'd it. I did not finish it. The premise of this is basically it's based on the Star Wars video game Jedi Fallen Order. And it's set between the events of Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, which is the new video game that came out in April. And I thought, wow, what a great book. I will absolutely love this. It'll be so fun. It'll be so great. Wrong. It was so sad, so disappointing. So when you're in Star Wars universe, let me just tell you, as a fan, maybe you like this, but as a fan of Star Wars, a huge fan, when I am looking for Star Wars content, a video game, a show, a movie, anything, I am not looking for romance, and I am there for the action, there for the lightsaber fights, the Jedi stuff, the Force. Like, I want all of that stuff. If there's no Jedi, like in Solo, I want like the action, the political intrigue, the scheming, the scum and villainy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want the action. And this was focusing on Marin's sexuality, relationships. They were talking about relationships. The way they wrote Marin and Cal was really upsetting me, and it made Cal kind of stupid, and he's not. And it was starting to ruin characters for me. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to read this. And then I saw a review. I was like, do I even want to finish this? I'm really not liking it so far. I didn't even get to like, I don't remember. I was quite a bit into the book, like almost halfway, if not halfway into the book. and some of the plots still hadn't happened, like things that should have been early on, that are mentioned early on in the book or in the summary. And then I read a review and they were like, if you picked this up because you love the video games and wanted to read it before Survivor, they were like, it is not needed. And they like hated the book and they finished it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I feel like that's a good call. I feel like that's a good sign for me to not continue this and to put it down. And I did. And I'm so happy I did, because I don't think it would have added much, if anything, to me playing Jedi Survivor, because I'm currently playing it. I'm a little behind, but I've been working on it slowly. I don't think it really would have added much to my experience, and it was disappointing. So I didn't finish that book. I feel like you're actually getting into the books that I didn't finish. I feel like usually it's like, I'm not going to continue the series as you've seen, but I did DNF that one. I did it. I did it. The next one is going to be Crown of Ivory and Glass by Claire Legrand. I picked this up and just could not get into it. I wasn't vibing with it. I was getting irritated. I put it down. I picked it back up before the end of June, read some more of it, and then was like, you know what? I don't hate it as much as I did the first time, but I don't think I need to continue this book. I was really irritated with the main character. She was really selfish. I talked about this in my June reading wrap up. But it was like way more than that. That kind of like oversimplifies everything I was thinking and feeling. The pacing seemed kind of slow. The book is pretty big, and I couldn't understand why I didn't know like anything about the story that much. I mean, I did. There's like some abilities. The main character is allergic to magic, basically. It like physically harms her, makes her like hurt, makes her sick when she's exposed to magic, which is really unfortunate because you're supposed to be able to yield magic in the high society, affluent families, which she's a part of. So it's like really shameful for her. And she meets a guy that can numb her pain, and like she's got a lot of anxiety and other things too. But she's like, I hate you because I'll never feel this way again without you. And it's just like, oh my gosh. It's so focused on that I couldn't tell you like what the feud with the other family is about. They're like trying to track down a demon. I don't even know if they did. I was like 38% through this book. And I just was like, nothing's happening. I have no idea what's going on, to be honest. And parts of it were interesting, but I just couldn't continue it. So I'm not going to finish it. I need to just let it go. If you've read this book and you think I should change my mind, let me know. But I think for now it's done so. Then the next one is Wings, Cursed, and Bound by Piper J. Drake. So I did read this book. I got it on NetGalley in exchange for my review for the audiobook. And I did finish it. And the beginning was really interesting, and then I finished it, and I was just kind of like, that was just like, okay. It was just fine. It wasn't great. It wasn't anything I'm super attached to. And I found out it was going to be a trilogy, if not a series. I don't really know how many books. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to know much more about this. I felt like, again, the beginning kind of started off really quick and really fast, which I appreciated, actually. I was like, oh yeah, this is like, the danger's going up. This is great. And there's a vampire introduced, and you're like, whoa, this is cool. Very early on, like first few pages probably. And I was like, okay, awesome, let's go, let's go. And then it just kind of like petered off and was like less dangerous, more romance. The romance was fine. If you like romance, I wouldn't say it's like super heavy spice, like Touch of Darkness level. I'd say it's more toned down, which I like, but I wasn't really a fan of the romance. I wasn't really a fan of the characters, really. And the character I found the most intriguing was in it for like 2 seconds, which will probably be in future books, but that was like the only one I was kind of interested in, and they weren't even in it that long. And then she gets in a situation where she's like kidnapped, and I felt like the resolution of that was way too simple. It was way too simple, way too fast and easy. Like it just all happened like bang, 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 bang. And it just seemed silly to me. And I don't really have any attachment, ties, desire, drive to finish the trilogy or series at all. So this is another one that I'm just letting go so I can move on with my life. And the next one is so sad. And that is the Vagrant Gods series by David Dalglish. I read The Bladed Faith. I honestly probably should have DNF'd this. I was really disappointed. I gave it like 2 stars. I thought I would love this book. It sounded so good, so interesting, and I just felt like the characters were kind of confusing me. And that sounds really, I was getting like the characters confused, and that sounds really like that's a me problem. And maybe it is, you know, this book wasn't for me, but it was way more like I couldn't keep track of it in my mind because I didn't care. And I was just like, I don't know, just continue to listen. And you could keep the story going. I knew what the story was, even if I was getting some of the characters mixed up, but I felt like it's because they weren't really standing out to me very much, and so I couldn't differentiate that well. And there was some fighting that was really cool. I liked some of the fighting scenes for sure, but it was just okay. It was not really something that I was feeling at the time. I slogged through that sucker and maybe shouldn't have. And it's a series. I know the second book is already out and I'm not going to continue. I almost picked it up. I was like, almost bought it because I was like, I'm going to love this series. I know I will. So it was really disappointing for a book about God, magic, and revenge. It should have been really good, I think. And it wasn't for me. I really didn't like it. If any of you have read that book and you really liked it, I would love to know your opinions about it and why. But it just kind of, again, like it kind of fell flat for me, and I wish I really enjoyed it because there were parts of it that were really interesting. But again, if I'm trying to, you know, really tailor more of what I'm going to be reading and what I'm going to be like putting down, letting go, not worrying about, and picking up things that I really want to read and I want to get through and making sure I have time to do that, then I have to be a little bit more cutthroat. And so with this book, I was not feeling it. I didn't vibe with it. I did not like it. It was very disappointing. And I need to stop being like, well, what if I give them another chance? Like, no, you just need to let it go because there's so many books on your shelves that you could be reading. So that is one that I am letting go. Okay, this next one I am on the fence about. You may be able to sway me, but that is I'm not sure what the series is called, but the first book was What Lies Beyond the Veil. Okay, the series is Of Flesh and Bone. And again, the first book is What Lies Beyond the Veil. I gave this book 2 stars. I felt like the premise was really good and could have been done really well, and in my opinion was not done really well. I felt like the execution was a little off. I didn't like the relationship between the 2 characters. I thought it was too spicy for sure, but not in a good way. Also, I guess I could tell you the plot of this maybe. Essentially, there's a human, she's lives in this world where there's a veil, like a magical force field that protects her world from the elves or fae, whatever they are. And she's about to be sacrificed to this veil so that the power will continue, and it shatters, and then she is marked by the fae, which basically means if any human sees her, they will slaughter her on sight because they don't want the fae getting her because it will give them power. So she goes on the run, and she ends up meeting up with this guy, and he's like helping her survive, and they're on the run and joining all these things. So I didn't like it. I didn't like the twist. I saw the twist coming from a mile away. The way they were like cussing and talking to each other was very degrading, and I didn't really like that. It wasn't pleasant. They just kept talking about each other's anatomy instead of like liking each other as a person, which I know is not necessarily like that's in a lot of romance, but it was just the way it came across to me was really off-putting and kind of cringy. I don't know, I didn't like it. Some of the ways that she was describing the spice, I didn't like. A lot of it felt more like coercion or assault, which I'm not a fan of, and I will immediately stop reading things like that. So I was disappointed because I was really curious about the fae powers, and I think we'll get more of that in the next book. So I'm at a crossroad because I didn't really like the first book, and I want to DNF this series, but I have just like the tiniest bit of curiosity. And I wonder, is it worth it to read book 2 and 3? If you have read this series, please, I'm like legitimately asking for your opinions. I always do, but please tell me, like, is it worth it? Should I continue the series? Because as of now, I don't want to because of how off-putting that book was for me. But if we get more of the magic and the story gets more interesting, I might. So please tell me if you think that it gets better, if the story improves, if you think I will like the second one more. Please tell me. I would desperately like to know. As for now, I'm not planning on picking up book 2. We will see if that changes in the future. Well, those are all of the books that I was basically just like trashing on. I'm so sorry, this was so negative. But these are all the books or the series that I have DNF'd and am not returning to. So let me know your thoughts on this video, if you thought it was fun, if you thought it was horrible. And obviously the questions I asked about if you've read any of these and have any thoughts to share with me, I would really appreciate them. As for now, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.